Hey, this is Big Guy DIY Robert coming to you with a video on repairing a boat windshield. I'm currently up in Quebec, up in Quebec. In what's the town?
Saint-Lin-des-Laurentides.
One more time.
Just call it Saint Lin.
Saint Lin.
Yeah.
Okay. And what it is we are getting rid of this very cheap Lexan windshield. This was only in here for 2 years, and as you can see, you cannot see through it. So what we're going to do is they use a very special polycarbonate that's guaranteed not to scratch, correct?
Yeah, well, it's convertible to glass like the one I have on my face here.
Okay.
So basically what the actual specific polymer is sourced to a couple of companies, but essentially it's as close as you can get to real glass without being glass.
Okay.
So it's a very good material. It lasts up to 15 to 20 years. Wool warranty 5. This will not happen to our material. It's guaranteed. So.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So once this is repaired, I'll be driving back up here to Quebec. It took me about 7 hours to get here, which is fine. It's well worth the drive. And then I'm going to show you how to reinstall this windshield once I get it all repaired. So we'll come back later on this one.
You're leading, so I'll follow your lead.
So this is the original windshield. It's only 2 years old. This is Lexan, which has no UV protection. That's what happened in 2 years. I found this wonderful place up in Quebec. This is our new windshield. And even on an angle, you can still see clearly through it. So I'm going to have this gentleman tell us about this and how it came about. And I think my first question is, this is not considered plexiglass.
Well, plexiglass it's like a generic term because I've heard people say plexiglass when they actually mean acrylic. Mm-hmm. I've heard plexiglass when they mean Lexan. Lexan is a brand, by the way. Okay. So what you're actually referring to for a part like that is called polycarbonate. But when you say polycarbonate, there are so many different variations. It's a chemical, right? Mm-hmm. So you have, it's like saying bread. There's white bread, brown bread. There's so many different types of breads on the market. Same thing for polycarbonate.
Yep.
So the polycarbonate we're using is a specialty material. It's high optic, which means that the actual visual shifting, no visual warping, it's made to be a windshield. So what happens in the industry is some people just say, oh, I get a polycarbonate sheet, I'll go ahead and make my own windshield. But the thing is, you need to find the specific blend. And we have sourced that, and that's what we have here in the shop.
Okay. And so when was it your father that invented this, or?
Yeah. So my father was an engineer for 25 years. Mm-hmm. He worked for companies in Florida. So he worked with aerospace engineers, things like that. And he's always been in more of the actual engineering market, I would say. So he's, buddies and connections. They always talk to each other, right? So my father has some connections back to the actual manufacturer, and he specifically spoke to the engineers who make this material, and basically he got his hands on it, and now we have the connection. That's how we get pallets here.
Okay, yeah. And so now this is being used not only for curved boat windshields, but you're also using it for ATVs. Yep. UTVs, yep. And what other industries are you also using it?
We're using it now for forklifts.
Forklifts? Because
the actual material is AS4. So AS4, you have like AS1, which is like normal glass, AS2 all the way to AS4. So AS4 is for impact resistance, visual quality, things like that. It's basically a high safety material, mm-hmm. which essentially makes the windshield like AS4 up to. We're talking about 1/4 inch. It's a little bit less than that. Okay. But the actual material itself is a safety material. Okay. And we use that to make sure our customers, driving 100 miles on the trails, things like that, you don't have visual shifting. Mm-hmm. You don't want that. If you're driving a boat, I don't know how many knots that the boat would go there, but you don't want that as well. You don't want, if you see a buoy or whatever, you don't want to hit it. So visual warping is extremely important in windshields.
Okay. And so what is the thickness of this on here?
This is 1/8 thick.
1/8.
Yep.
is there an advantage of 1/8 versus say a 1/4 inch, or it just has to do with the manipulation of it?
Well, exactly. So the reason why we use 1/8 is because we want to protect the actual shape of the frame, and the springiness, we're actually leveraging the spring to our advantage. So what's happening here is that the material is always, I don't want to touch it because I want to get it dirty, but essentially the actual material is always forcing a little bit and it wants to go back straight. So what ends up happening is the same principle as that. As you can see, that it has a memory kind of.
Yep.
Our material will eventually, kind of settle in and take its place. But what's actually happening here is that the spring is always pushing against the metal and it's making a very, very strong windshield. Okay. And that's the objective of using 1/8 thick. You don't want to use 1/4 inch because it costs extremely expensive molds, things like that. And we can't heat the material because of the fact of the visual warping. So we need to keep it, as pristine as possible, but also make it into the shape, which is why we have to use the 1/8 thick. And that is the best way that we figured out to do it.
Okay. Yeah. And on their website, which is called Flex-a-Fab.com,
right here,
just like he says on his shirt, you have your choice of how you want this treated. Now, I had a special treatment put on here to resist scratches and then also resist UV as well.
Exactly.
So with that being done, what is your warranty for your work first?
So the first, so we're guaranteeing this for 1 year, everything, frame popping out, cracking, everything, so the build quality of the windshield. After 1 year, if you have no issues, it's never going to have any issues, right? Okay. So it's a year, and it's just because people are kind of starting to get abusing, things like that. So 1 year, free. If it cracks, whatever, we'll go ahead and replace it absolutely free of charge. We'll even have it shipped to us, and we'll ship it back for free. Now, for the actual UV resistance, you have two options. For the general material, there's no warranty on it because it's not protected as UV as much as the scratch resistant. So it is a very good material. It does have UV resistance to it just naturally, but it'll never be as good as the hard coat scratch resistant polycarbonate, which is what is in this windshield. Okay. Here. So that's up to 5 years that we warranty. So no visual hazing like that. It won't yellow out. It won't craze, as we call it, and it'll stay up to 15 years. According to the manufacturer, but we'll warranty 5. Okay, so you're warranting 5 this for it to stay clear, optical clear, and then but it should stay optical clear for up to about 15 years. Exactly. It's just because it's like brushing your teeth, right? If you don't brush your teeth, you don't take care of it, they're going to get yellow. It's the same thing with this. It's the chemicals you're going to be using to clean this. We have a sheet of paper that we give to our clients, but people are negligent sometimes, and you cannot prevent people from damaging their stuff sometimes, and that's the way it is. So for us, if you follow that instructions, it'll last up to 15. Yeah, it comes with every single windshield, and it takes about 2 minutes to I mean, your wife just read it, she's behind the camera, but she read that in like 2 minutes, and it was done, and she's like, okay, I understand. But some people just see the piece of paper, toss it on the ground. Throw it away. It's very important. It's just because we're used to glass, we're used to these clear materials like acrylic, things like that, but it's its own breed, and you have to take care of it. If you take care of it, I mean, I've had mine on my side-by-side for about 8 years. Don't have an issue with it. It looks brand new, but I know how to take care of it. Okay. So if you take care of this, it'll outlast your boat. You just gotta make sure you read the paper and you clean it properly. Excellent. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do with this video is I'm going to bring this back, and I'm gonna show you how to install it back on the boat. But I'm gonna show you, because I used to do windshields a lot when I received the boats. They used to come from the manufacturer without windshields, and they were in pieces. So I'm going to talk about the different types of windshields, and then I'm going to show you how to reinstall this windshield, because the installation of it is the same as uninstalling it. I'm just doing it in reverse. So we're going to sign off for now. Next shot is we'll be back in the States, and we're going to be installing this windshield. I thank you so much. No problem. Enjoy your trip. Help. This is awesome. I'm excited about this, and I'm trying to convince him to open a location in the States, because the closest location I have to me, being in Connecticut, is Florida, and I'm not driving to Florida. I wanted to see the actual product. I wanted to put my hands on it, and I wanted a warranty with it. And I got everything that I was looking for right here up in just north of Montreal, Quebec. Yep. The actual town is called Saint-Louis-des-Laurentides. That's how you say it. It's you can look at it on our website there, but we're trying. We're going to maybe expand soon. It's all in the works, right? We have so many things and things like that. We're probably aiming for Vermont. So, well, maybe by the time this video comes out, maybe we'll have a job in Vermont. You never know. But for right now, it's all up in the air.
Yeah, my fingers are Burlington, Vermont. Cross for that.
That's what we're hoping for.
All right, we'll see you back home.
I'm sorry, I didn't meet you. So what's your first name?
Vincent.
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 Merci beaucoup.
Ça fait plaisir.
All right, thank you. So, recording this installation of the windshield, I've managed to not turn on my microphone for this entire point. So I am going to do a voiceover on this and how it's done. And I'm not going to read my lips. But I'm pointing to the windshield that I pulled off the crown line. I've installed windshields for quite a while. The marina that I used to work at, I had installed windshields for a couple years, and because when they came in sections. Windshields come in as a single windshield or as a 3-part, 4-part, or 5-part windshield. They're all come in sections. They're all separate. They all can be separated when taken apart. When I took this windshield off, I sent the complete right half because I wanted to make sure that we got the angle of the windshield correct for the new insert that I was purchasing up in Quebec. So the next point here is I'm going to show you how this windshield is put together by its section. So most windshields, when they come together, there's a couple of ways that they are connected. Sometimes it's just like a tongue and groove. One slides into the other. Other times it could be 2 tabs that just fit into each other. And then there's a screw that holds the tabs into the winged part of the windshield. But this way of windshields that are made across the boating industry is pretty much the same. Yeah, that's really it for the windshields. So I'm going to show you this windshield here as it's taken apart and how I put it back together. All windshields have screw holes on the bottom, and then they're covered by really one of 3 things. Either it's a foam insert that covers all the screws, or a plastic insert, which will be a tongue and groove. It'll snap in place. Or it'll be this rubber insert, which this boat has. It's kind of like a half moon shape insert. And they slide back and forth inside the base of the windshield so you can cover the screws. You'll find some boats from manufacturing, they're not always perfect in regards to the length that they make, so the screws sometimes will be exposed or a corner will be exposed, but that's all you have to work with. This windshield here has a aluminum insert on the top that has to go together. As you can see here, I'm trying to slide it in. That is slightly bent. That happened when the windshield got hit the first time. Well, the only time it got hit. That part got bent, so we had to bend it back to make sure it was straight. This one here, just as you can see, there's a groove here, curved groove, and then the wing just slides into that groove. So it's not something that has to slide in, it's just, you just place it straight in. So this is one of many styles in regards to how a windshield is put together. Next to the windshield, this is the rubber insert I was talking about. It's a half moon shaped rubber. It's a little on the short side, but it's a tongue and groove. It goes up into that groove that I'm pointing to on the base of the windshield. And you just kind of work its way in. Now, if you do this in the cold weather, it's far more difficult to install. Warm weather, there's a lot more flexibility with the rubber, especially if you have the plastic inserts. This is what the rubber insert looks like when it's in place. And it just slides into the corner of the windshield. They all can slide forward and back, or aft and forward, once it's installed. But the plastic insert ones that are flat when they go in the base of the windshield, those are best to be done during very warm climate weather or indoors. Otherwise, that plastic can snap or break. Here you can see the screw holes, which I will be using the existing screw holes in the hull for this. This is the rubber gasket on the bottom. I'm not replacing this. I'm keeping this on here. But if you had to replace this rubber gasket, you can purchase it really anywhere online. It's nothing special. It's just a foam gasket, usually about 1/8 of an inch, no more than 1/4 of an inch thick. And that will help seal the windshield against the boat hull itself. There's another view of the passenger side in the insert as it is installed. Now this is considered a 5-piece windshield because of the center window opening. Some people may call it a 4-piece because that center window is attached to the passenger side of the boat, but it's really a 5-piece because if you pull the hinge out, the rod inside the hinge, it's 5 pieces. So here I'm just pointing out how the manufacturer installed the windshield and the screws. Here you can see all the screw holes from the original windshield being pulled. And you can see all the stress cracks from age of the boat. Every single hole, but they're all countersunk, which is correct. They should be countersunk because when a screw enters and hits the side of the gel coat, it'll crack. But you can see there's cracks everywhere on this boat. It was not a really high quality gel coat job by Crown Line for this year. I've seen whalers that last longer than this. This boat's 20 years old. But it's not leaking inside the boat. So this is more of a surface crack, not something that's going through the fiberglass at all. But if these holes were not countersunk, I would have gone through and countersunk every single hole. That way we can reduce the chance of more cracks taking place. So you will see I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to countersink some of the holes a little bigger so the cracks don't get any worse than what they are currently. That's the countersink I'll be using. It's a 1/2-inch countersink, pretty common size used. So I'm just going to go through and touch up some of these holes and get the gel coat back a little, so I'm screwing into the fiberglass and not touching the gel coat as I insert the screws. As you can see, I installed the stanchion that will hold the front windshield in first because there's no way to get a screwdriver, even if it's a shorty, on the screws that hold that stanchion in place. It's too tight. The windshield angle is a little too sharp. So I'm just bringing this up to see how it fits, how it looks. At this point, I'm just talking about the stanchion and getting some of the tape off it. And I'm pointing out the screws, how difficult they are to get to. The product I'm using to seal all these holes is called Life Seal. This one's white. This can be used above the water line or below the water line. It can be installed in wet surfaces and it'll still harden. The reason I use this the most is because things can be taken apart after it's put together. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to put a small little bead inside of each hole. So when the screw goes in, the screw is sealed. Now these holes are not inside the cabin, but actually if I were to take that gray thing that I'm leaning on off, I could see the screws coming through. So any water that does leak through, it actually stays inside the cockpit of the boat. It doesn't go inside the cabin of the boat. The screws are just regular Phillips bit screws, so I'm adding an extension on to my drill. It's with the tip, it's about a 3-inch extension, just because of the angle that I need to get to. The wing window is actually the first window you should install, not the windshield itself, because the wing window can only go within a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? It can only go into a certain spot because of the way the hull is designed. So I'm starting from the rear of the window, which is the first screw I put in is actually the anchor screw. And so I'm just going to place the wing window over that and start driving the screws in for that. Once the screws are installed, that wing will actually hold its location. It won't move at all. Next, I'm going to install the windshield, the front windshield. And again, I'm going to stick with the factory holes. So I'm just working the windshield into its position. and then that aluminum insert that went into the top part of the windshield rail, I'm trying to get it in there before I put the windshield down. So once I get the windshield attached to the wing part of the windshield, I'm putting my first screw down in the front of the windshield. And I'm just going to use my hand screw so I can feel how snug it's going in, so I'm not overdoing it. And then once that is in, then I'm just going to drive my other screws into the base of the windshield. For the screws, I had gone out and bought all brand new stainless steel number 10 1¼ inch screws. The screws that were in the windshield were kind of worn out. I don't know if this probably from last time this windshield was repaired, they kind of stripped the heads a little, and so I wanted new screws in there with new heads so I don't have any issues or anyone else has any issues down the road. The rubber insert, as you can see, is cut on an angle, and that angle matches the outside of the front windshield, and then the square part goes against this square side of the front of this windshield. Now this one's a little on the short side, so I just do my best to try to get it as centered as I can. You can't stretch it because it's just rubber. It goes right back to its original shape. But you just slide my hand along the top of it and the thing just pops right in. And before I finish placing it in, if I need to move it, I can always pull it out a little and just pull it in the direction I need it. I know this one here is going to leave a gap, so I thought, crap, I got to redo it. So I pulled some of it back out, recentered it, and worked it back in. But the whole insert was short by about 2 inches. Now I have to install the insert on the wing window. And the process is the same thing. One end is at one angle to match the front part of the windshield, or front part of the wing window. And the back part is a different angle to match the rear part of the wing window. So I changed the camera angle here so you can get a better view of me doing the insert, but you can see the 2 different angles for this rubber insert. So now that the windshield's installed, you can see how clear that windshield is. It's just like looking through glass. Even the tree that you can see through it is not curved. 2 screws that hold the windshield into that tongue and groove part. The rest of it, I thought more screws were installed, but apparently not. It's just 2 screws that hold that together, and that's all, which kind of surprises me. I expected a little more than that. But you can see the clarity. It is, even on the curved part, nothing is distorted at all. So I found that pretty amazing compared to what was in there previously. There was distortion. So in the end here, I'm just saying the installation of a windshield is the same thing as uninstalling it. You just reverse the process. And that's really it. That's pretty straightforward. You can't rush it. And then I ended the video as this is Big Guy DIY Robert signing off. Please don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up if this information was helpful. I will place the Flex-a-Fab information down in the description area. So if you have a busted windshield, you know where to go. If you make this trip to Montreal and you're doing it from New England, I have to tell you that be prepared for traffic, and lots of it. Montreal roads are not like the U.S. roads in regards to 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 5 lanes. They're just 2 lanes. Speed limit is very strict up there. So being from another country, try to stay within the speed limit, because it's a very hefty fine if you are caught speeding up there. And their speeds in Quebec, and really pretty much all of Canada, they don't have the highway speeds that we have here in the U.S. They're much slower, much lower, I should say. If you're using a GPS, at least my Garmin switched over from miles per hour to kilometers, so I can stay within the speed limit, because all the signs up there are in kilometers. And of course, they're all in French. So having a GPS, a Garmin GPS, helped a lot in showing what exits I'm hitting and the names of the towns. So I wanted to add this side note in for reinstallation of the windshield. And this is actually kind of important because it happened to me after I had done the initial video, so I needed to attach this to make sure everyone sees this message. So this is the issue. Remember, this is not as stiff as glass. So when you put this in, your frame will want to do what it wants to do. When I initially installed it, I did the wing and I used all the factory screw holes all the way around, but the alignment of the center windshield was off by substantial amount. There was no way to force it to close. So my advice is install the wing window using the stock holes. But what I had to do is unscrew all the stock holes here, or slash screws, and I had to do it here on this front windshield, because that spot there and that spot there is a pivot point for this whole windshield. So what I had to do is, by unscrewing the whole front window on both sides, I had to find the middle, and I had to close this and lock it. And I also took a clamp. I don't want to call it a C-clamp. The clamp you would use, say, in woodworking. You know, there's the rubber ends to it. And I clamped it on the top, so it held it tight. The next thing I had to do was I had to stand right here on this windshield to keep it down in place, screw 2 holes here, screw my 2 new holes there, one there and one there, attach them, and then work my way around. So I did another 2 holes and another 2 holes. So in regards to factory holes, there they are. So the frame is actually back a little. Same for the other side. One there. These first 4 factory holes did not line up. The rest around the corner did align. So I just use Life Seal on those. Come next season, I'm going to use a different product, a marine product by JB Weld. It hardens up like 5200, and I'm going to reseal those holes so the color matches, and it's a much harder product that won't disintegrate over time. So right now I'm in the shop to get this boat shrink wrapped for the season, so I'm a little late on getting this video out, so I apologize on that one. But this was an important note when it comes to reinstallation of this windshield with the new Flex-a-Fab poly insert. That's it. Give me a thumbs up if this information was helpful. I'm very tired. That's why I can't talk right now, as you can see. Anyways, have a good one. Take care. Don't forget to subscribe, please. It helps.